Hi, everybody. It's Strictly Jazz. It's Strictly Jazz with John LiBretto. Jon Korkes, hopefully we'll be able to get him back. I don't know what's happening there. But this is Strictly Jazz, and I guess we can say on some level that it's the longest continually running radio show.
At least on this station.
On WCWP.
This show premiered in 1965.
Actually, the first time Strictly Jazz was on, it was October 19th, 1961 with John March.
Older than a lot of people around here. That's true.
Right, exactly. He did the first show, and it was weekly.
That's right.
On that very first, before we were FM, a long time ago. And here it is, Homecoming.
2024.
Is that what it is?
It's a long time ago. 60 years since I came to WCWP.
Right.
And more than that for you.
Exactly.
This is, as you say, the oldest, longest running show. When we went FM, it was the very first show on the FM air.
The very
on March
first.
15th, 1965. When the station went on the air, we put on Strictly Jazz.
Right. I remember.
So here we are again, and proud to be here.
Proud to be here. It's really a nice thing. The station, for those of you at home who are regular listeners, the station has gone through a kind of a physical transformation and also been upgraded technologically as well. And it's just gorgeous.
Except for the Zoom call part.
The Zoom call part, which, I don't know, they never figured it out. But at any rate, we do have fellow WCWPer in New York, couldn't make it out to Long Island today, Jon Korkes. He's with us. Hopefully we'll get him back.
If nothing else, he's here in spirit and watching us.
While we do that, why don't we hear a little more music, because this is Strictly Jazz. We've got the Gene Harris Scott Hamilton Quintet, I believe, right?
Yeah, we do.
The album Jazz for Dads.
Right, it's a Concord album from 1994. It's actually a compilation of many, many things, but this is You Are My Sunshine. Wonderful Gene Harris with the Scott Hamilton Quintet. That was You Are My Sunshine. Gene Harris, the pianist, of course, was with the Three Sounds back in the 60s. Harold Jones was on drums, Herb Ellis on guitar, Ray Brown on bass, and Scott Hamilton on saxophone. We are working through our technical problems, which are not major. And in fact, very soon we will have Jon Korkes with us from New York. It sounds like a big deal. He lives in New York. He should be able to get on in New York. In any case, before we do that...
Talk to him.
Yeah.
Well...
Oh, hi, John. You can talk to us now.
Talk.
We're good.
Say hello, John.
Say hi, John.
Hey, fellas.
Oh, good.
Very nice. That's all you have to say? We got 3 hours to hear. You better come up with something else.
That's all I prepared was, hey, fellas.
Very good. Okay, write that down. It's a script.
But doesn't he do that well?
He does. That's
hi, fellas. He could, walked out the door yesterday.
And for that reason, that man is in SAG-AFTRA.
Let me tell you, SAG-AFTRA.
Anyway, we'll move on. We'll talk some more in a few seconds. Oscar Peterson Trio with Clark Terry. This is Brotherhood of Man.
The Oscar Peterson Trio with Clark Terry. That's okay. This is something I ate.
Something you ate.
Something I ate. This is from the album from way back in 1964, when this station was just a little bitty embryo.
Just little children.
The album is Oscar Peterson Trio plus one, and that one would be Clark Terry, of course. And that number was called Brotherhood of Man.
And what show is that from?
Brotherhood of Man.
How to succeed in business without really trying.
And I didn't know that until this very second that you said that. All right, we've got Jon Korkes is on with us. Jon Korkes, who started at this radio station with us. Jon Korkes, who's had a career as an actor and as also as a very esteemed acting teacher. And John, how you doing?
I'm here, I think. Can you hear me?
are.
And one of the things John has been teaching us is how to act like adults, which he's really failed at over the years, but that's all right.
Yeah, well,
I haven't mastered the adult part yet.
we've all learned from you a lot, let me tell you. So
We were, what the folks out there, we were in a special, I'm thinking, we're in a special age for those folks. Not only were we among the guys who put the station on FM right the first time, right?
That's right.
I was in the first group. You guys were in the first group.
yeah,
And the first show I ever did was called The Night Side, which was my nighttime jazz show.
I remember that well.
And I loved it. And that was the first thing I put on the air. But when we all went on the air at the same time, and now God knows how many years later, for those younger folks watching, you should appreciate that we're in a special group, the three of us. I should say special because we're at an age where we could be in the living room and suddenly, and run into the kitchen. And when we get to the kitchen, have no idea why we're in the kitchen.
This is true. Yeah. If we didn't have notes about what we have on the radio today,
I don't know
none of us would
guys.
Remember.
Wait a minute. I have to say, I just have to say,
no idea.
I just have to say, my memory is perfect. Knock wood. Come in. But
well, and there you have it.
there you have it. Where can you go, John? Are you? We have another song coming up. Would you?
You want to hear some music?
We might. It's a music show.
It's up to you.
Well, you got Woody Herman.
We do.
We do.
Can I say something a little bit about the Woody Herman Band?
You certainly should.
Absolutely.
The Woody Herman Band was, it was called the Herd, and there were many incarnations of the Herd that Woody's bands were called. And some of the best jazz musicians ever came through and out of the Woody Herman Herds. And I think this is the second Herd. I don't know if it's got all those guys, but among the people in the band were, legends, became legends like Stan Getz, Zoot Zims, Al Cohn, Jimmy Giuffre, who wrote the tune Four Brothers We're About to Hear. There's an amazing collection of guys, the Condoli brothers. You can hear them, and you will hear them on other sides that we've selected and John LiBretto selected for us. It was like a free-for-all. It was like an organized free-for-all to hear the Woody Herman Band. And to this day, one of the most exciting bands to listen to because of that. They all knew what they were doing, but man, it was exciting. And the second Herd, I think that's what we got. I think it's the second Herd. Stan Getz, who became one of my favorites of all time. There's a lot of Stan Getz stories. I can spare some of them, but you want to hear one Stan Getz one? Guys?
Certainly. Yeah. Absolutely.
Stan Getz was, not all happy stuff, but Stan Getz was one of our premier jazz musicians of all time. In spite of what was going on in his life, no matter how terrible it was, no matter the scourge of drugs that plagued him most of his life, he always played well. I spoke to someone who played with him. It was a phenomenon. You can rarely find anything of Stan Getz's where he's not in tune, where the sound isn't good. It was just a phenomenon. But he came out of a small, poor family in the Bronx. And in high school, he got hired to go on the road with a band. And the truancy people caught him and made him go home. And then right away, he got hired to go on the road again to tour with the Jack Teagarden Band on the road. And the truancy people caught him, and they made a deal with his parents and Jack Teagarden that he could stay on the road as long as Jack Teagarden tutored him, which was ridiculous.
What a thought.
You can imagine what that tutoring was like. So by the time they got to Los Angeles, Getz was already an addict. He already had a major drug problem. And the story goes in one of his biographies, somewhere in that frame, a little bit afterwards, he was making a reputation for himself as a young, handsome, good-looking saxophonist in the clubs out there. And it was a young Ava Gardner that was interested in him, but he was so interested and so consumed by scoring dope that he couldn't even keep a focus on her. He was so distracted. went most of his life. There's a lot of amazing stories about him, which I can include later on if you're interested.
Well,
no,
that
only have 3
one
hours.
there, that one there, the Ava Gardner story.
Yeah, about his later divorce and the house that he had. Well, up in Westchester is still there, but amazing stuff. I could bring in later and
keep a lot of them on the back burner. We're definitely going to want to hear more of these, no doubt. I mean, that in itself is great. Yeah. Why don't we get on with some more music, John? What do we have?
Yeah, let's listen to the Second Herd. Woody Herman's Second Herd did with one of the most famous tunes by Jimmy Giuffre, Four Brothers.
The great Woody Herman from 1947. That was Four Brothers, written by Jimmy Giuffre. And Jon Korkes, you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, it was a great band. I saw them at a club in New York. And when we were while we were here at Post, there was a club called, I can't remember the name of it, but it was in the Empire State Building on Fifth Avenue and 34th Street, and there was and Woody Herman was there with his band in 1964. It was a great night.
Yeah. We do hear you on Zoom, so we're okay. Go ahead, John.
Anyway, we're going to move along now to Dave Frischberg.
Well, can I just say something about that Woody Herman number there? It is so 1940s, and I mean that in the best possible way. That saxophone rendition in there, it's just,
and John, at that time, Getz was with the band, right? With Woody Herman's band. When I saw
I think he was.
By 1964, I don't think I knew any of the musicians who were sidemen in that band. By that point, Stan Getz had moved on to the bossa nova, and was working with other people. But in any case,
really,
it's such a great sound because it's true big band swing.
Yes,
and it's at its best,
which I love.
Yeah, I do too. It's just absolutely great. Well, we opened the show, of course, with Count Basie, who is, to me, I know there'll be arguments. Other people like other bands, but for my money, Basie had the best band and the tightest band in big band world. But there are others who like Duke Ellington, others who like Woody Herman, and there are plenty of other good bands around. But I grew up listening to.
I'll listen to any of them
Count
anytime.
Basie. I saw Count Basie right here at CW Post in the gymnasium in 1966.
Back when schools had gymnasium.
We had a gymnasium. That's true. The sound in there. Talk about music bouncing off the walls.
What was that, John? Korkes?
The word gymnasium.
Right.
Gymnasium. Who knows?
One gymnasium, two gymnasia.
Well, anyway. All right. Dave Frischberg is up next. Dave Frischberg made his mark as a piano player when he worked with Carmen McRae, Ben Webster, Gene Krupa, and a number of other people in the 1950s and early 60s in New York. Made very famous when he wrote the song Van Lingle Mungo. For baseball historians, it's a wonderful song. Lists all the names of hundreds of baseball players. Probably only about 30 of them in the song.
We're going to hear that later.
No, we're not. We heard that last year. I'm doing something different this year.
Okay.
But also, Dave Frischberg also wrote. I love one of the great New York songs that Rosemary Clooney sang, "Miss New York." But this is.
He wrote "I'm Hip."
I'm Hip. That's right. He did. And he also wrote this, which was about a friend of mine. Not really, but my attorney, Bernie.
Bernie tells me what to do. Bernie lays it on the line. And listen to this sermonette.
The great Lambert Hedrick Ross Sermonette. Those of us in television remember what a sermonette was. It was usually on sign-off.
Yes.
Just before the national anthem. Joining us right now, Mike Chimeri, who hosted Instrumental Invasion just before us, between 2 and 4 p.m. But not to be outdone, he has a 3-hour version of the show that's pre-recorded and will air tonight at midnight. Mike.
Yes, I recorded that over 3 days earlier this month after Jeff told me that there was an opening for it. I recorded it, 6th, 7th, and 8th of this month. And submitted it to station manager Dan Cox on the morning of September 9th. And I stream on the live streaming website twitch.tv/Mike Chimeri. And so I mostly play video games on there, but I also do recording sessions for shows like the one I did that you're going to hear at midnight.
So when we talk about Instrumental Invasion, I know it's a little jazz.
It's jazz. It's smooth jazz. It's jazz fusion. Right. It's synth wave. There's a song by Anders Enger Jensen. Anybody familiar with the YouTube channel The 8-Bit Guy might have heard Anders' music. I think Anders' website is eox.no because he's from Norway. But he just great instrumental music. And the song, well, I'm not going to get into it. You'll have to listen to the show.
Listen to the show tonight. You'll hear it.
And we will. And you can, don't forget, you can do it even if you're in Zanzibar.
Exactly.
And it probably won't be on at midnight either.
No, it'll be later in the day.
Right, it'll be like 8 o'clock in the morning.
That's true.
But it's a throw. It's sort of the in between. We do strictly jazz. A lot of the music we feature is from the 60s, 50s, older jazz artists, great stars that we grew up with. And yours is more in the smooth jazz and synth.
Yes, period. It's strictly instrumental, and it does lean more towards smooth jazz. At least the show that I recorded that airs at midnight later on. But there is some jazz thrown in. It leads off with a McCoy Tyner song from Quartet's 4x4, "Forbidden Land." One of the tracks with John Abercrombie on electric mandolin.
Very good, very good. Well, thank you. We'll look forward to that. We like your show. I listened earlier this afternoon.
Thank you, and I appreciate the compliments you guys gave me.
Well,
I had a lot of anxiety coming into this weekend, especially recording to these two camcorders over here, which people will see once it's on YouTube, but you obviously can't see it now on radio. But.
Well, yeah.
Can we ask you, Mike, to cut off the first 5 minutes of this show?
Mike, let me just say one thing, and before we move on to more music. We're in radio, and you made it complicated by doing TV at the same time.
Yeah.
I give you credit for that.
Anyway, we should launch a rocket.
We should.
We could do.
Meanwhile, thank you very much, Mike, for being here.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Hank and Jeff.
You're welcome.
And Jon Korkes.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, Jon Korkes. Don't forget.
He's still there.
He's still with us.
I'm here.
Yeah, he's in his own studio at home.
The building's okay.
Yes,
Nothing's
I don't
happening.
have a camera on him at the moment, unfortunately.
Well, what is wrong with you? Just
it's focused on me, and the other one's a wide shot of the three of us.
You have too much to do here.
Jeff's
Here's something I'm really looking forward to. Errol Garner from the album Concert by the Sea, which is 1956. I remember it was the year after my bar mitzvah, folks. How could I forget that? The song is "It's All Right with Me."
On Route 66. Get your kicks on Route 66.
The great Natalie Cole with Route 66 from her Grammy-winning album, 1991, Unforgettable with Love, where she sang all her dad's songs and really did a great job on them. So we're going to have a little fun for a moment here. When you think of Chicago, not the city, but the group Chicago, known in 1969 still as the Chicago Transit Authority, you don't think of jazz. But most of those musicians are jazz musicians, particularly Jimmy Pankow, who plays trombone, had one of the greatest trombone gigs since Tommy Dorsey. Listen to the beginning, and of course you'll know the rest of the song when it comes up, but listen to the beginning of Does Anyone Know What Time It Is? right, a little off the beaten path there for Chicago. Does anyone know what time it is? It just tells you the influence of jazz on so many musicians, and these guys are great.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with these.
What planet did you grow up on? I'm sorry, I'm only kidding.
I have absolutely no idea who Jay Cave is. I've never really thought about that. John,
Jimmy Pankow is the real star there. The trumpet.
Oh,
Jimmy
yes,
Pankow,
we're talking about Chicago.
Brother of John.
Yeah, that was
Pankow,
it was really good.
actor.
The piano news.
Right, that's right.
Yeah. So we're
working,
coming
yeah.
pretty close to the end of the show. Got a couple more songs. John, hey, they're in New York. We just want to make sure that you're still alive. Say
And I'm
hello.
still here.
At our age, we check in on each other every 10 minutes.
I'm still hanging by my thumbs, as they say. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been great having you with us. We'll have another couple of songs. We'll chat just a tiny bit, but I think John, why don't you take us into John LiBretto? Take us into
A lot of Johns here.
I know.
And not only that, we have a singer named Johnny Hartman.
Okay, good.
Johnny
So
Hartman on vocals. Ralph.
we'll talk a little bit again before sign off.
Absolutely.
A little bit, yeah. And we'll talk over the sign-off music too.
A little.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
A little bit.
Make sure we get off on time.
Yeah.
Ralph Sharon on piano, Jay Cave on bass, and Christy Febo on drums. Just as Johnny Hartman, I fall in love too easily.
There are those who can leave love or take it. Love to them is just what they make it. To
Johnny Hartman singing I Fall in Love Too Easily. Getting toward the end of the show. Jon Korkes, Hank Neimark, and myself, John LiBretto, having a wonderful time here this afternoon. 3 hours of Strictly Jazz.
A couple of last words. Good night, everybody. It's been fun. We got one more song to do. We may have a little bit.
At
John,
the end.
good night to you, Jon Korkes.
Yeah. This was the center of my college life, this place.
Yep.
It was for all of us, wasn't it,
Was
though?
for all of us. How we ever graduated, I don't know.
How we ever got out. All right, well, let's listen to Benny Goodman. This is a solo by Benny Goodman. Carnegie Hall, 1978, Send in the Clowns.
Good one.
Okay, bring it up.
Open our mics. Oh, wow.
Hey, we're on.
Mics are
You didn't
open.
know our mics are open. Anyway, this is the end of our 3-hour extravaganza. Hope you've enjoyed it.
I have. It's been wonderful to see. Well, first of all, let me talk about Jeff Kroll, who is superhuman. He hasn't slept in 7 years, ladies and gentlemen. His wife, Pat Kroll, understands this. She has to sleep next to him. John LiBretto, my dear friend, Jon Korkes. John, did you have a good time?
Yeah.
You're on the air.
You're not enthusiastic
Can you
about
hear me?
that. I hear you
you're
now.
on the air. This is the we're
Oh,
closing.
good. Okay. I didn't know if you could hear me anymore.
Yeah, well, we can hear you.
We can hear you fine.
Hope you had a good time, Jon Korkes.
I had a great time. I wish I were with you, but I still had a great time. And I was going to say, in many ways, we haven't left.
It's
Or
true.
in some important ways, we have not left.
And it's the best ways we haven't grown up either, I have a feeling.
That's even better. That's even better.
You want to play?
No, I love you guys a lot, and this just reaffirms all the best.
Thank you, John. We love you too. We love you, Mike.
It
Hank.
doesn't
All right.
slow down for me.
John, everybody here at WCWP, the new WCWP, and Mike Chimeri, I want to say we had him on the air a little
And
bit.
stay tuned now for John Zoni, who'll be taking over right after the end
Thank you, Jeff.
of this
Exactly.
show.
Thank you so much, Jeff.
Thank you, everybody.
Good night from
See you
Strictly
next year.
Jazz. Good night.
Thank you all. See you again.
What's Homecoming Weekend without you and WCWP, Brookville, New York? You're listening to Homecoming Weekend with John Zoni on 88.1 FM, WCWP.
And good evening, everybody. It is 7 o'clock on a Friday night, September the 20th, Homecoming Weekend 2024 here at 88.1 FM, WCWP and WCWP.org. I am indeed John Zoni, and I'll be taking you up until 9 o'clock when the disco and funk king himself, Jay Mirabli, will step in for 3 hours. But right now we're going to get this show underway with the way I usually get it underway. If anybody's actually bothered to tune into this show for the years, you know I always start with the same song, and that's Bad to the Bone by George Thorogood and the Destroyers.